Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another FP&A Trends webinar. Today we are going to talk about how to surf uncertainty with continuous planning. My name is Larissa Melnichuk. I'm owner and managing director at FP&A Trends Group, an international FP&A board. Just a quick reminder that today we are joined by more than 430 registrants from 55 countries from different continents. But the majority of you are coming from North America and Europe. And just a quick reminder that the main mission of International FP&A Board and FP&A Trends webinars to share with you the latest trends and developments in modern financial planning and analysis. A quick reminder about today's agenda. I will start with key definitions and concepts, and then our panelists will share with you the subjects of continuous planning as an enabler of organizational agility. There will be a case study from Jaguar Mining, continuous planning for capital intensive business. And then the last presentation is about how technology can enhance the process of continuous planning. As usual, we will have conclusions and recommendations, and we will have a Q&A session as well. Now, it's a good timing to quickly introduce our international panel. Our panelists, dear panel, please, if you can join me. So quick introductions now. Let us start from Pedro Ferreira, Global Business Intelligence Lead at Novartis. Pedro is Portuguese, but currently based in Toronto. He has more than 20 years of experience in multiple finance areas in large multinationals in 5 countries around the globe. He's an experienced FP&A director, global head of FP&A for Novartis Pharmaceutical, and he's part of leadership team of a large ERP transformation program in his company, and he's leading business intelligence project. Pedro,
thanks, Larissa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome. And today you're going to share with us this subject, continuous planning as an enabler of organizational agility. Happy to have you, Pedro.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Then we are joined by Hashim Ahmed, who is Chief Financial Officer at Jaguar Mining. Hashim is Toronto FP&A board member. He has also more than 20 years of experience in finance, strategy, corporate development, and capital markets. He's responsible for financial and non-financial aspects of the business, such as strategy, FP&A, treasury, tax, HR, supply chain, and systems. And today, Hashim is going to share his company's experience on continuous planning. Hashim, welcome to FP&A Trends webinar.
Thank you, and very happy to join.
Thank you. And the final panelist is joining us from the US, from Illinois, former FP&A practitioner, a CPA. At the moment, he is working for solutions consulting at Planful. A lot of experience in different industries, product industry and food and beverage and manufacturing with his FP&A experience, but now nearly 10 years of experience with the company, with the solution architecture. And today, Ben is going to share with us his vision on how technology can enhance the continuous planning process. Ben, you're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, dear panelists. Now you can switch off your cameras while I have a few general slides before we start. Just a quick background for myself. I'm British qualified accountant. I'm based just outside of London. And at the moment, I'm managing FP&A Trends Group and International FP&A Board. With International FP&A Board, I travel to those 27 wonderful cities and 16 countries on 4 continents. And our FP&A Trends website is the leading educational resource. And we started also to do some best practice workshops and FP&A consultancy as well. Now about this webinar. So it would be 1 hour. We will have 2 polling questions. Please join us in those votings. Interactive Q&A session, and you can start to send your questions through chat box. Presentation is available in handout, but also we will send you the recording and presentation within 2 days after this meeting. And please stay with us until the end in order to share with us in the survey what we can do better. Before we start, thank you so much to our technology sponsor, Planful. The company is well known for their flexible FP&A solution. Thank you so much, Planful. Now I would like to give some key definitions and concepts on the subject of continuous and flexible planning. When I was preparing for this webinar, I was thinking, what would be the quotes that are describing this incredible environment where we are? And I found those 3. I think they are a fantastic description of what we are going through at the moment. If there is one thing that's certain in business, it's uncertainty, definitely. And the maturity is the capacity to endure this uncertainty, maturity of our FP&A department, maturity of our business, maturity of our analytics. And of course, the future is uncertain, but this uncertainty is at the very heart of human creativity. And with FP&A, definitely we can exercise this creativity together with our knowledge, technology, processes, and all of this. What is the definition of continuous planning? I really like this one. So continuous planning replaces the traditional static and calendar-driven, calendar-bound process with this dynamic and very open-ended planning approach that is triggered by internal and external events as they occur. Of course, it's important to use the technology in order to automate those things, in order to be as quick, as dynamic as possible. And by the way, continuous planning and agility, those are very connected subjects. And of course, when we talk about the process of continuous planning, it's not only the method, it's a mindset. That is why we exercise a lot of change management. So now about FP&A trends survey that we finalized in the middle of this year. Very good news, actually, comparing to the previous year. What we discovered from our respondents that 45% of those have a real-time view of business performance. And incredibly, it's 10% increase from the last year. But at the same time, there are 2 techniques that can increase this percentage even higher. So those companies that implemented driver-based modeling, driver-based planning, 50% of them are able to provide real-time view to their top management. And if companies implemented AI/ML, 71% of those are able to do this. Now it's a good time for me to invite Pedro Ferreira, Global Business Intelligence Lead at Novartis, with the subject of continuous planning as enabler of organizational agility. Pedro, the stage is yours, and you are welcome.
Thank you, Larissa, and good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here to share my views and my experience on continuous planning. So if we start, we normally talk about continuous planning in scope of volatility, which is absolutely right. But the first thing that I wanted to anchor here is that continuous planning will not solve volatility. So volatility exists due to a number of factors, external, market information, innovation, all of that is there. And what continuous planning needs to do is that it needs to be a catalyst for our organizations to be able to react to this volatility. When I think about capacity to react, I think about action readiness. And when I think about this, I think about a couple of things. One of them is visibility. So if you think about continuous planning, that should be a way of getting quicker and more efficient visibility of what's ahead of us. This can come particularly important if we are close to major events. For instance, it comes to my mind a situation of an earnings release where we want to know how things are going to unfold. So this is one where continuous planning could play an important role. Another one, it's faster decision making and operational agility. So we want the organization to be able to take decisions in a quick way. And again, here continuous planning can help us on that. There are also particular situations that come to my mind from my experience. One of them, for instance, we can link it back to a launch of a product. So if we are in early days of launching a product, we've been through that. We know that things can be volatile at that moment, and it's very important early on to be able to take the right decisions if we need to course correct something. And again, using the right KPIs to input to our continuous planning process can be really a way of telling us how things are going to evolve in the near future, and how then we can take decisions to course correct whatever needs to be course corrected. The other aspect that I think on when I think about action readiness is about continuous planning also offering us outcome ranges and ability to play with different scenarios. If we do that, we're going to basically increase our flexibility to be able to react. So in essence, what I wanted to just to recap, the first thing is let's think about continuous planning as a way to enable us to be well reactive to the volatility environment that we have. The second thing I wanted us to anchor on, moving on, is about process efficiency. So if we move on, probably more than any other planning process or methodology that we have, continuous planning is one that needs to be highly efficient. When I think about efficiency of continuous planning, I think about three things that influence that: process, technology, and culture and mindset. When we think about process, a couple of things for us to keep in mind that can really influence how we do it. First of all, focus on what matters. So not everything moves the needle in the same way in our businesses, and focusing on the ones that really do is going to be very important to have an efficient process for continuous planning. The next one is dramatically simplification, and dramatically, I think it's an important word here. The process needs to be extremely simple. And I think that one of the things that we need to keep in mind here is you should not try to put your yearly planning process that you have into shorter time frames or into more frequent updates. The other one is make sure that the process loops back quickly as feedback to the organization. When I think about technology, it comes pretty obvious. You need to make sure that you have technology and systems to support your planning process. But you need to use it to the right level. So there is a lot of, you know, that whenever you have systems, there's a lot of functionalities, bells and whistles that you have, but you need to know which ones you need to use on a continuous planning process. Probably simpler than any other ones that you use. Leverage algorithms and focus on events, algorithms to automate as much as possible so that you can focus on events, and be sure that you have good quality data and efficient data flows. Culture and mindset is one that probably we don't think too much about normally, but it's as much important as the other ones. And here it's basically let the process be true to itself and let the process talk. Take the politics out. So don't negotiate your outcomes. Rather, be sure that you have an action mindset within the organization that will help you to trigger the right discussions on which actions to take. I think that if we have these three in mind, we can drive efficiency of the process. But what I wanted to focus on as well, if we move on, is that there is a very thin line between process efficient and helping the organization to be reactive, to actually driving complexity and bureaucracy through the continuous planning process. And here, just few watch out. Be sure that the continuous planning process that you have, it's fit for your purpose. again, remember that it does not solve volatility. It should be the mechanism to address it. And the reality is that if it's not well managed, it will just add complexity. And it's given the type of process that you have here in terms of continuous planning, it's very easy that it starts to consume organizational time and resources and actually hinders the responsiveness rather than giving it. So what I wanted to conclude, if we move on, just the final remark from my side, is that it's not rocket science if you actually want to start to test it and if you want to start to use it. And here I just wanted to leave you with few simple remarks that, if you keep them in mind, can be actually a good starting basis for you. First of all is we need to understand where continuous planning will fit in your current planning cycles. So what I want to say here is that we should not just add another planning process, rather we need to evolve the ones that we have. Start simple. I've talked about this before, but just want to reiterate. Select a few variables that really move the needle and start with those. Over time, you can evolve to more complex things, but start simple. Ensure that the outcome will have a quick visibility to whoever are the decision bodies in your organization. And last but not least, make sure that you have the right support and the right advocacy from your senior management. Having this sponsorship is very important so that you can kick it off, and then make sure that you communicate the benefits of it to the organization. So in essence, and as a final message from my side, it's possible to start it with small steps. You have the ability to do it, but always keep its purpose in mind. And here I go back to the first thing I wanted to anchor. Continuous planning needs to be your enabler for the organization to react quickly to volatility. And here I would basically pause for any comments from my colleagues.
Pedro, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation. The message that continuous planning is catalyst and enabler for us to respond to uncertainty, it's a fantastic one. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite Ben and Hashim to come and join us in the commentary. Hashim, anything resonated with you? Anything you would like to emphasize here?
Yeah, I think a very interesting presentation, Pedro. How would you describe your experience of applying continuous planning in a very large organization like the one you work with, and what are some of the challenges you've seen there?
Thank you, Hashim. I think that I go back to the visibility topic. One of the challenges in big organizations to be sure that you have a quick process and a flexible one that will very efficiently go back to the decision body that you have. It's very easy that in these organizations, you actually get missed in the different layers. So for me, that's the experience, to be sure that it's quick and flexible.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Hashim. Ben, any commentaries from your side?
Yeah, I think from my experience and having been in Pedro's position and going through this, the most important thing that you do before you even worry about technology or overall process, get yourself a champion, get somebody who really firmly believes in this so that you can get adoption. I think that's the best place to start.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Pedro, for excellent presentation. And now we would like to hear from our participants. I'm starting the first polling question, and it's about the biggest challenge in your organization what is the biggest challenge? If you can read and find the one that is most resonating with you, what do you believe is the biggest challenge for the continuous planning implementation in your company? Is it talent and skill set? Is it mindset? Is it technology, data, or business models? Please continue to vote. Choose one of those. So what is the biggest challenge in your organization at the moment for implementation of continuous planning process? Is it talent and skill set? Is it mindset? Is it technology, data, or business models? I can see that more than 55% of you voted just a few seconds. I'm closing the poll and I'm sharing the results with everyone. Amazingly, we see that 50% of you think that the mindset is the biggest challenge. Then all the rest is even between talent and technology and data and business models. I would like to ask you, Pedro, to comment very quickly.
Thanks, Larissa. Actually, it resonates with me. I've mentioned that the culture and mindset are one of the key catalysts for us to be able to do this. So it totally resonates with me.
Excellent, thank you. Hashim, are there any surprises for you?
No, I actually am on the same page on mindset. I think this is one of the biggest challenges which most of us are facing in terms of transitioning towards continuous planning.
Thank you so much. I agree with you that it's all start from the culture, it's all start from the people. Thank you for all your votes. I'm hiding the results. And let us now move on and look at the real case study, at the real practical experience from Jaguar Mining Company, continuous planning for capital intensive business. Hashim Ahmed, Chief Financial Officer. Hashim, this is your stage.
Okay, thank you, Larissa, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Let's go to the next slide, and I'm going to quickly go through some of the aspects of what we are going through as an organization. So just to recap, conventional planning, as we've seen in the past, is your annual budget followed by some periodic forecast updates that we do. This is pretty normal in many organizations, and you end up having a lot of time being spent on trying to understand and also explain to the senior management as well as board that why was your actual results different from the forecast and vice versa. So it does require a lot of time and analysis, but the analysis is not value added. So the question is, how do you bring focus back on value added reviews? Harvard Business Review did a survey, and they said, FP&A consumes 30% of management's time. So that's a substantial amount of time we spend in this activity. And how do we make that a more useful time so that we can get most value out of it? Next slide. So this kind of applies, summarizes our approach to continuous planning. Of course, different organizations have different definitions of continuous planning. For us, I want to specify, first of all, continuous planning is not rolling forecast. It's not a periodic update. This is an automatic update to your plan without human intervention at all. So the approach we've taken on this is an 80-20 rule of application. We've picked up 20% of large drivers of the plan, which have an impact at more than 80% of the plan's materiality. So that's one of the best ways to start. You pick up a few things that have the major impact, and the way to identify them, as I'll go through in examples in the next slide, are very much like making small process tweaks in your planning process and then coming up with a dynamic process to update. So once again, I'm going to walk you through the major cost drivers as we saw and how did we change them into a continuous planning cycle. So for example, in this slide, you can see pricing. All of us have this happening more now than ever before, where prices are going up, inflation is very high. So instead of waiting for the next forecast cycle and waiting to update your plan, we've connected our purchase order and contract signing step in the system directly with updating the plan. So without human intervention, if I sign a new purchase order, my plan gets updated with respect to the new price. Similarly, if we've got people who are going on vacation, if got certain resignations, and I know that there's going to be a rehiring window, those kind of gaps in labor availability, I don't need to wait for the next plan cycle and update my plan. Those are updated on the system. The plan is updated immediately. Again, on the maintenance side, which is a very capital intensive sector, utilization, we've installed wear sensors, so if I see my tire consumption is more than my plan, or if I see the utilization and availability of maintenance of machines are low, I immediately we've put in algorithms in our plan, and if the average is more than 5% of our current assumption, we need to update the current assumption, and that happens automatically. So we don't need to wait for a human intervention once again. CapEx, once you order your major equipment items, we end up having a lot of delays sometimes because of logistical issues, and having to spend that, having to explain that to management every now and then, as a reason for delay in forecast expenditure, we don't think that's a value-added activity. So that happens automatically in our system as well, along with our procurement modules. So these are just examples of how we have automated, very simple steps and with removed human intervention in updating those plans. Next slide. So, I think one of the key things we have to address is what are the critical success factors in order to move from conventional planning towards an automated or a continuous planning cycle. Of course, you need to have a lean financial close process. Our focus is a lot more on timeliness. Of course, we want accuracy, but 90% accurate information on time is way better than 100% accurate information, which is 20 days delayed. So our focus is on financial statement close process, which is lean. We have digitized data capturing opportunities throughout our processes. So as I explained before, if we can install a small telematic which can capture the use of our tire consumptions, and we can update our plan accordingly. It's a cheap installation. It captures the data and it uploads it to the cloud service. And then on top of that, we have very customized applications that run on that big data and produce those changes to the plan. So those are the key success factors that we've identified. Next slide. So, challenges, of course, we can see that we saw this in the survey as well, in the polling question, people mindset, what I've always told people in my own experiences, we've got two extremes of planning. One is extremely conventional planning, and the other one is where you're doing a fully automated plan. And we don't need to be on those extremes. We may be, different organizations may be at different points of those continuum of change, and take small steps every day, and then you will have a big impact by the end of the year in terms of making your plan more agile. And then agree the parameters with your board, because it's a new process. They're not used to it. But agree that process and then apply and have their approval before you go ahead with live with this process. And as you step up in that maturity curve, of course, you can apply more complex examples such as pattern recognition and scenario simulations. Those are simple apps that you can get from most of the developers these days, customized for your data set. But mindset is the biggest challenge. And as an organization, we've seen, when you're used to a very calendar-based plan, you do your budget, and then you wait for a few months to do your next forecast. Having a live update at any time, real time, to your forecast can be a challenging concept. So getting over that mindset is the first step for sure. So, Larissa.
Hashim, what a wonderful practical presentation. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. It's a great reminder, and there are a lot of confusion at the marketplace. It's a great reminder that continuous planning doesn't equal rolling forecast, but when it's combined, it's a powerful tool. I would like to invite the panelists to come and join us here, just for a quick discussion and commentaries. Pedro, we will start from you.
Thank you, Larissa, and thank you, Hashim, for the presentation. I just wanted to leave here two things that actually really resonated with me. One of them, the 80-20 rule that you mentioned right in the beginning. Again, I think that's absolutely critical when you think about an agile continuous planning process. And the other one is about the real-time concept that you just introduced. When something changed in your business, you automatically get an update. So I think that those two concepts are something that really resonated.
Thank you, Pedro. Ben, any commentaries from your side?
Yeah, just more of a quick question. Hashim, I'm just curious, certainly agree with the concepts of everything that you've mentioned, and I'm just curious, where are you, if have you started any type of technology journey yet?
So yeah, I mean, we are actually in a very good place in operation wise in Brazil, where we have access to a lot of developers in technology. But what we've done, Ben, is instead of implementing, major changes to our ERP, we use a lot of customized apps which run on that, mega data that we generate through digitization, and we plan and update our plan accordingly. So it's a lot of customized apps, which once again I emphasize on because they're cheap and they are readily available.
Thank you so much, Hashim. Once again, excellent presentation. But now this is the timing to hear from our participants. And now we would like to hear what is the best description of your continuous planning process at the moment. I'm launching the poll and you can start voting as soon as you see the question, and you have to choose one of those. What is the best description of your current change status towards continuous planning? Please select one of the following. We use traditional planning, the first one. We use rolling forecast, the second one. We started to use automation, the third one. A real-time continuous planning is what you would do. Please continue to vote, just a few seconds. And I'm going to close the poll. More than 65% of you voted, just a few seconds. The last bits, I'm closing the poll. I'm sharing the results. And no surprises here. Actually, the majority of you are still using the traditional planning process. 44% of you, 41% use rolling forecast, started to automate 9%, and 6% already on real-time continuous planning process. Hashim, any commentaries from your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think very, very well, received this feedback, because I think a lot of organizations are at the beginning of that journey. But I would highly encourage everyone, do not get scared about the extent of that journey, because small steps every day are going to get you way ahead in this continuous planning cycle.
Thank you, Hashim. I would like to ask Ben to comment as well.
Yeah, no surprises here, especially being out in the market every day. It's what I do, is talking to customers who are in this similar situation. So a lot of folks want to move away from traditional planning. I think the hardest part, as was mentioned earlier, it's the mindset and the question of how do I get started. So no surprises there.
The good news that 15% already on this journey. So thank you so much for all your votes and commentaries. I'm closing the poll. I'm hiding the results, and we are moving on. Of course, it's all about technology, isn't it? So let us go to the presentation about how technology can enhance the process. Ben, a Solution Consulting Director at Planful, this is your stage.
Thanks, Larissa, and thanks for everybody for joining us. I think it's a fascinating topic. And as we start to look at the slides, I think there's a number of things, as I had mentioned, that you may start thinking is like, where do I even begin? Technology is an enabler, but at the end of the day, you've got to have the mindset, you've got to have the want and the desire and the need to go move into something more of a continuous planning. I probably have a little bit of a little different opinion than a couple of the other folks in that I do think you could start with a rolling forecast. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think it's a journey that you're going to go through. I think the first thing to consider is that it is a continuous process that starts all the way back with closing your books. So starting with actual data, right? That actual data then feeds your ability to see trending and see some different things that happen. Driver-based planning, you may look back and say there's certain things that should just be averages or based on trends that have happened. But technology isn't the only answer. You can't just go buy a system and then say, now I'm ready for continuous planning or rolling forecasts. You have to address the process as well. So as you look at your current processes today, how does technology enable that? And then what processes do you have that are in place just because the lack of technology? Without considering both of those, I would make the argument that you're going to suboptimize your overall process. It's going to take both of those considerations. And so what really becomes important is this whole concept of progress over perfection. It's, how do you eat the elephant one bite at a time? If you look at the entire challenge, it's pretty daunting. There's a lot that could happen over the course or over that roadmap or journey. The most important thing is just to get started and then take small phased approach. So be able to look at prototypes, pick an area that's of most importance. My background was manufacturing. I had commodity pricing for stainless steel. If I got that price right, I could probably be very wrong on much of my other plan, and I'd still be all right. So my number one place to start was identifying the area of importance. I think it was Pedro who mentioned that earlier, that not everything matters. So start with the things that really matter. And then ultimately, you do want to drive to that more automated process, driver-based planning, get it highly mathematical, ML, AI. There are a lot of providers out there who can give you that type of capability. And ultimately, what you're doing is you're going to remove some of that non-value added work. I think that Hashim had said something to the effect of, they want you to use that 30% of your time, but they want you to use it in a much more productive way. And I would totally agree with that. So get out of that manual work that you're doing and get more into the analysis of the business and learn from the results. The first couple cycles are going to be a little bit challenging. You're not going to be completely accurate to where you want to be, but it's a great starting point. Now you find out how much you actually know about your business, and what'll be shocking is you'll find out you actually probably don't know your business as well as you thought you had. That's totally fine. It's about that learning process. As we go to the next slide, then, we really want to take a look at a couple other areas of when it comes to technology, what is it that you want to consider? Well, one size doesn't fit all. You may have other friends who are CFOs or in this space, and they may say that they use a particular technology provider. I'd say not every solution is the right answer for every business. Focus on your needs specifically. I think you need something that's going to be flexible and scalable. I probably have a little bit of a different view on the world. I don't think you want something that's going to be highly customized. I think you want something that's going to be configurable. I think you want it to be nimble. I think you want it to be something that you can own and manage. And as you learn more about your business, as your business is changing, as the economic environments change, make sure that you can move and change with that. You don't want to be held captive by technology. But you also need to have technology that's going to support your complexity. So there's a difference between a very complex business and maybe a more mature business who's taken out a lot of the complexity of their processes. And it's not defined by size of company. I deal with really small businesses who are very complex. I deal with some very large organizations who've actually taken out the noise and the complexity, and they've made it fairly straightforward. But with that comes the size of data set that you have. So big data is always a challenge. You want to make sure that you have something that's going to perform to the level of your expectations. And also, it's not about just what you do or have today. You also want to consider your future needs. So if you're in the mode of going into acquisitions, you're going to continue to grow and grow and grow and become more complex. That's a little bit different than that business that's a little bit more mature, and they're really looking for just that organic growth that they have in their business. Think about the needs for reporting. Think about the needs of maybe future consolidations. If you've got multinational organization with acquisitions, that's a different offering than somebody who's just looking at more of a planning practice. Okay. At the end of the day, what's the risk for you making the wrong decision, right? You don't want to necessarily look at it from the standpoint of just what do you have today. You want to keep in mind the future. As we look at the next slide, we're going to think a little bit about then how do you evaluate who you work with. And so what I would tell you is, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you've got something that's going to meet your needs. Do you want something that's on premise? Do you want to have something that's cloud? Cloud is becoming very prevalent out in the marketplace, and it's only going to grow more and more. Find somebody who's a really good business partner. Don't think of them as just a vendor. So make sure that they're going to be there for you in the long run. Make sure that, from a customer support perspective, I would tell you that might be one of the most important things that people discount as you grow, as you change. You want to make sure you have those resources who can give you guidance, who can give you support and tell you what others in your industry or others in that ecosystem are doing. And you also want to have a provider who's going to have a strong roadmap. You don't want to be married to the technology you have today. You want to make sure that you've got something that's going to grow over time. And then ultimately, I think when you think about a true business partner, you're going to want to have somebody that's going to be able to support you from a global standpoint, make sure that they've got industry knowledge, and also, do they have customers that look like you? So not necessarily the exact same industry, but what about the same processes? So I'd be much more focused on your business process, not so much of, is it the exact same industry that you have? And the next slide, what I'll show you is just one little study that we had done with Steinway Musical. They went from that mode of being more traditional planning into more of a continuous planning and using technology to support their business cases. And what you'll see here on the bottom is they took a process that was a very manual monthly process of about 8 hours, and they've moved that down to about 15 minutes because they've automated it. Now, they haven't removed that amount of work. What they've done is they've shifted their goals. They've shifted the ability for them to have more value-added work and getting away from the non-value-added work. So hopefully they're just a quick example of how technology, it definitely is an enabler, but you've got to have the process that goes with that. So with that, Larissa, I appreciate that. I'd love to see what the next poll question is.
Ben, we already had 2 polling questions.
Oh, that's right.
So we already finished with them, but now it's the timing for the commentary. I would like to invite everyone to join us. Please, a quick commentary. Hashim, we will start from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think another well summarized session by Ben on the summary I see as continuous planning is a process mindset that is supported by technology. That's the summary of this. It's not a technology mindset supported by process. So you got to be focused on process, and then technology is going to help you.
Excellent conclusion. Thank you, Hashim. Pedro?
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Actually, I was curious, something also building on what Hashim is mentioning. I have here the chicken and egg question. So we talk about process and technology. So where do we start?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to wrap technology around the processes that are important to your organization, and you will modify those processes. But I think you have to start with process. Make sure that you understand who you are as a business and where you want to go and how you want to do some activities. And then by using technology, you may be able to enhance or shorten down those processes that you currently have today.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone, for your commentary. I would like to invite all the participants that please continue to send your questions. We have a lot of them, and even if we don't have enough time to answer all of them, we will answer after the meeting through email. So please continue to send your questions. And now this is the timing for key takeaways before Q&A session. Just a quick reminder that there are many different steps to continuous planning here, but from today's session, we learned that it's all about key business drivers. It's about the relevant items for continuous planning. It's about real-time data and driver-based modeling and analytics and automation, modern planning technology, reporting and storytelling, and of course, change management, because this is the mindset. Now, I would like to start from you, Pedro, to give your 30 seconds key takeaways, something that you would like participants to remember after this meeting.
Sure. Thanks, Larissa. Two things from me. I go back to what I mentioned initially. Think always of continuous planning as an enabler for your organizational agility. The second one I wanted to leave here is think about the 80-20 rule that Hashim mentioned. It's like not everything matters. Focus on the ones that really move the needle and start from those on your process.
Thank you, Pedro. Hashim, your 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I look at planning overall, it has two components. It has the definition of what happened and the definition of what are we going to do about it. And if you are implementing an agile continuous planning, you have to spend less time on what happened and spend more time on what you're going to do about it, which is what all businesses should be spending more time on. How do we strategize to, take our organization into the right place based on what has already happened?
Excellent. Thank you, Hashim. Ben, your key takeaways, please.
Yeah, I think there's really three things that come into my mind. First one is get started. There's no great time for it, no perfect time for it, so get started. The second one is it's progress over perfection. So don't get intimidated by the largeness of what that entire journey may look like. But if you can start making incremental improvements, as Hashim had mentioned in his section, it really does go a long way. And then I think the third thing that's most important is you're going to be evaluated on how it was adopted in the organization. So make sure that you've got a change agent. Make sure that you're doing it in a way where you're not shocking your system. And that's where prototyping, small approaches, taking those little steps forward, you won't shock your system too much. And you'll have really good adoption and high success for you personally.
A great reminder, Ben. Thank you. Now this is a good time to start the Q&A session. And I must say that there are a lot of questions for our panelists. Please continue to send them. As I said, we will answer all of them, even after the meeting, if not enough time. The first question is to you, Pedro. Should continuous planning be integrated throughout the organization in all functions? Or is it the best to have a dedicated focused team that handles continuous planning and partners with business leaders? So what is your view on this?
I think that we need to, it depends on the organization. I think that you need to be pragmatic. And I think that I've mentioned that a risk that you have in large organizations, it's to involve too many people. So if you can start smaller with a shorter number of people or functions involved, I would say that that's a good way to go, and then evolve to others as needed. So this would be my thought on that.
Thank you, Pedro. Hashim, you are the next. A lot of interesting questions. Did you find that fewer resources were needed on continuous planning using AI methods versus traditional planning? If yes, what percentage reduction in resources did you experience by using artificial intelligence capabilities?
Yes, so definitely. And the reason is because by implementing data digitization tools throughout our process, we are capturing so much data, and we are doing real-time processing. So it's saving a lot of time. It's saving a lot of human resources. How much? It depends on the automation. I can give you, big data. The first response I get from my team, if we have a new big data collection and analysis project, is that should I hire 2 analysts to review this data? And I'm like, no way. That's where AI comes in. AI will help you replace the analysis of that big data. So it has, but I think I wouldn't be able to quantify it. It all depends on the amount of data digitization and big data production and analysis that your organization is doing. But it does what it does benefit you is you can do it real time and you can do it very, very effectively.
Thank you, Hashim. Ben, the next question is to you. What is the typical implementation timeline to go from rolling forecast to AI continuous planning? Do you find that the large organizations have more challenges than medium and small size companies?
It may be a little bit surprising, but in some cases, no, because they've already realized that, like the other two have talked about, you can't do everything. So they've already kind of figured out what level they can manage their business at. And so because of that, we don't have to really talk about process management and overhauling their individual processes. And so that is one of the things in a large organization. They've already kind of whittled out all the really low granular level, because they realize as an organization there comes a point where it's just you can't do it any further. But as far as like time to implement, it really depends on the technology itself. If you go with a customized approach versus more of a configuration approach, cloud versus on-premise, there's just so many things to consider. It's really hard to answer that. It really does come down to that technology itself, but the AI side of it, depending on what you're going with, some AI is provided outside of their platform, some AI is provided within the platform. A lot of things to ask and lots of things to consider, but the good news is there's usually a solution out there that's right for everybody.
Thank you, Ben. We go to the second round of questions to our panelists. And Pedro, the next question is to you. Are there certain industries like SaaS companies versus traditional manufacturing where continuous planning is more beneficial? Is agility harder in larger, more established companies versus smaller startups?
Interesting question. My answer would be agility is important for all of the organizations. So I think that we want to strive for agility, whatever the business is that we are. Building a little bit on what Ben was saying, I think that it's harder or easier depending on where you are on your journey already. You can have large organizations that are in more traditional business that have evolved their processes, and it's easier for them just to switch over. You have organizations that are very active on M&As, integrations, that probably will find it more difficult to integrate all the different parts of new businesses that they're acquiring. So I think it really depends, but I don't think that there is one that benefits more than other on this. I think that the agility is important for everyone.
Thank you, Pedro. Hashim, the next question is to you. How far into the future does your continuous planning stretch? Is it covering next 12 months or more? What is your answer?
See, the thing is, I think if you remember my presentation slides, that's why I had included that infinity loop, because it's of a continuous nature and it's happening very quickly and in a very agile manner. It is usually addressing not too far ahead. It's going to be addressing short term. My experiences, it's mostly less than 12 months, unless, for example, you have a change in price of a contract, which you already know is going to be fixed for the next 24 months. Usually it's a short-term focus only.
Thank you, Hashim. Ben, the next question is to you. We all know that technologies are changing so quickly. How to make sure that after implementation of the latest technology tomorrow, we wouldn't find that it's already outdated? What would be your advice on this?
That's a fantastic question. I think what we would find in our practice every day is it's usually not the technology is outdated. It's usually that the folks in the organization haven't invested enough time to keep up with the pace of technology. So I would challenge people to think of it of, where our organizations in our industry, like it is a #1 focus of R&D and moving forward, and we have to do it to survive. I would say the bigger challenge is making sure that you've got a person who's involved who has some sort of technical aptitude and interest so that they can keep up with the new technology as fast as it will come out to you.
Thank you. It's a great answer. Thank you, Ben. And now the last round of questions. And actually this time it would be one question to all of you. So please give your option of answers. And the question is, what would be your advice on the next 2 steps for implementation of continuous planning for the company that is very, very traditional? You can actually build up on the previous speaker steps, but let us start from you, Pedro. So the first 2 steps that are important.
I would say 2 things. First of all, understand where in your current planning processes you can fit the continuous planning. So why do you need it there, and go from there? And I think that the second one would be identify what are the drivers that really change the needle, and start with 1 or 2 and start from there.
Excellent starting points. Thank you, Pedro. Hashim, your steps.
I think I'd go one step further. As Pedro said, I would say, maybe identify 5 cost drivers that are going to change your plan on a continuous basis and that are getting updated on a very frequent basis. Automate those only 5 and see how it goes. See how your plan responds, see how your organization responds to that change, and then pick up another 5 and then another 5.
Thank you, Hashim. And Ben?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the middle there. I think start with something that, it's nice to get your toe in the water with something, find out what you could manage. But I'd also say pick something that's a little bit audacious. Pick something that's going to be material to you. So if you're an organization that's a SaaS company, maybe start with revenue. If you're a manufacturing company, maybe it's the cost of material. Find something that is going to move the needle. Because at the end of the day, if all you're doing is moving the needle on travel and entertainment, you're not making a difference for your business. So find something that's material that you can test, you can prototype it, and maybe run it in parallel, see how it goes, and learn from it.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear panelists. And with this, I would like to conclude our Q&A session. Please stay with me. Just a few announcements. So our next event, and you're invited, there will be Digital North American FP&A Board, and it's all about how to achieve an agile and continuous planning process. There will be some different case studies, and you're welcome to join us. The link is here at this presentation. It will be November 16th. And then the next FP&A Trends webinar about rethinking traditional approaches to cash flow forecasting. With this, I would like to say thank you so much to our technology sponsor, Planful. Thank you so much for supporting this webinar. I also would like to say thank you so much to all our participants. Thank you for being with us today, for a lot of questions. We didn't answer all of them, but we will do after this meeting. We will collate all of those answers from our panelists. And I would like to say thank you so much to our fantastic panel. Thank you so much, Pedro, Hashim, Ben. It was such a pleasure collaborating with you. And I hope that at the beginning of next year, we will have opportunity to meet each other. So I'm planning to travel to North America. We already allowed from the UK from this week, I believe. So thank you so much. And just a quick reminder, this is the way how we can connect with each other. So please stay in tune, send us any examples that you have on continuous planning or the best practices. Let me know if you would like to speak at the future webinars. And with this, thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe, healthy, and let us continue with continuous planning. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.